Hey guys, I'm John Smedley and welcome back to Last Week in Real Estate. Over the last couple of weeks, we've looked at the current housing shortage, and then we looked at the impact this has had on borrowers using FHA and VA financing. This week, we're going to jump right in to address a growing number of Chicken Littles that think the sky is falling, and that a housing market crash is right around the corner. And sadly, you can't throw a rock without hitting one of these people upside of the head. As tempting as that may be, we may be better served to look at 4 key factors that impact the housing market and see how these are playing out, specifically in the Dallas and Fort Worth area. To start, I get we may still have some lasting PTSD from what happened in 2007 and the subsequent fallout that it had on the economy at large, across the whole country, and really globally. I get it. Yet we need to understand major factors that impact this market, so we'll start with Captain Obvious. Number 1, supply and demand. Now, we're not breaking any news here by saying that supply is at record lows. New construction's behind by close to 2.5 million homes. And pre-owned homes, those things are in the toilet, just like this onion. All but one of the 4 major counties in Dallas and Fort Worth, the area at large, have had less than 1 month of inventory on the market. And to provide some context to that, a balanced market would usually see closer to 6 months of inventory, so we're off by just that much. Demand is where this gets interesting. And politics aside, there are policy decisions that could continue to drive demand up even more. So why is demand so high? Well, that list would keep us here longer than most people cared to watch the new Mortal Kombat movie. Really, it was that bad. And similarly, it would leave us all extremely disappointed. So let's simplify it by looking at the sheer number of millennial buyers that have entered the marketplace. In 2020, they made up 37% of all home buyers, and estimates for 2021 show that number could go up as high as 50%, if not slightly higher. The pandemic has also motivated people in unforeseen ways. People need more space at home. They might need dedicated office spaces, or they simply desire to move out of congested urban areas in favor of the suburbs or rural areas. Listen, I'm no economist, but Economics 101 tells us that low supply and high demand equals increasing prices, and the housing market is no different. Now, another key factor for housing is also fairly easy to see. That takes us to number 2, interest rates. So to get started, we need to gain some perspective on rates because most, if not all of us, have been spoiled more than Veruca Salt and Willy Wonka. No, Daddy, I want 3% interest rates, and I want it now! But historically, rates have been closer to 7%. And while we're sitting around 3% right now, if not a hair underneath that, back in the early 1980s, when us millennials were just starting to fill our diapers, rates peaked close to 19%. So given the history that we see in this graph, having this stretch of low rates has been enjoyed for quite some time and is really pretty damn amazing when you think about it. To understand the importance of rates on mortgage loans, take a look at this right here. This shows the impact on affordability. Just a 2% increase in the rate, which we actually hit in the summer of 2018, would cost you about $100,000 more over the life of a loan on a $250,000 house. With many people believing that rates will start to trend upward in years to come, buyers are flooding the market, and this has led to home prices increasing about 13 to 15% so far. But John, when rates go up, prices will drop, right? Well, I'm glad you asked. And to be clear, no, they won't. In fact, if you look back, what you'll notice is that housing slowdowns are often marked by only modest gains, around 2 to 3%, or more rarely, they'll level off. Hardly ever in the history of the housing market do you actually see median prices dip on any sort of significant level. Of course, the challenge is we have recency bias, and most of us have lived in 2007, and so the economic crisis that proceeded from that is what we all envision when we talk about slowdowns. Lessons learned from 2007 have impacted the key factors that we're talking about. And the next key factor in specific is what has been impacted, and that's policy. So number 3 is policy decisions. And to start, let's be clear, I have no interest in making political statements or engaging in that side of things. So we'll set that aside and simply look at the policy decisions for what they are and the potential impact that they have. What drives the desire for government intervention in housing to begin with? Well, real estate as a whole is a multi-trillion-dollar industry, usually accounting for 15 to 18% of the GDP in the US, which is one big-ass motivator for the government to not let what happened in 2007 repeat itself. And one major step that was taken in 2007 was to create a first-time homebuyer tax credit, which was about $8,000. Now, with the impact of COVID looming, there is now a bill being kicked around in the House that would provide up to a $15,000 tax credit for first-time homebuyers. Of course, there are limitations, and there's also stipulations attached to that large sum of money. But think about this. If a market already has high demand, low supply, and interest rates are helping keep your housing affordable. In addition to that, first-time homebuyers made up of 31% of all home purchases last year. So, what do you think a motivating factor like $15,000 might have for people that are sitting on the fence? If legislation like this is passed, even if it's closer to an $8,000 credit like 2008, the demand for first-time homebuyers will only continue skyrocketing upward. So the last one that we're going to look at is probably your most important factor when you're talking about local economies and local housing markets. So number 4 is jobs and career opportunities. Now, this key factor is also where Texas, and specifically the Dallas-Fort Worth area, shine. Over the last couple of years, DFW has seen a flood of companies moving their headquarters to the area. 24 Fortune 500 companies and 3 Fortune 10 companies called DFW home. And the loss of jobs was less than the other 10 major metro areas at only 2.1% during the pandemic. Companies like Toyota, McKesson, State Farm, and Charles Schwab are just a few examples of major relocations we've had into the DFW area. And most of Charles Schwab's transition has been slowed by the pandemic. According to the Dallas Business Journal, the Dallas Regional Chamber has 102, repeat that, 102 major corporations that are considering HQ relocations or expansions into the North Texas area. Our jobs market is strong and is only projected to get stronger since the state has largely gotten back to normal from a business perspective. With all of this growth, our team would love to help you or anybody that you know considering a move to Texas. You can reach out to us at the links in the description below, and when it comes to the DFW market, Michael Jordan really said it best. The ceiling is the roof. Now on to our featured listing. This week, our featured listing is this beautiful bottle with an even better bourbon inside. This is Smokewagon Uncut Unfiltered from Nevada H&C Distilling in my home, away from home, Las Vegas. This has an awesome balance of sweetness and spice, and if you work with me, happy to have you over for a glass and a cigar, which actually makes this bourbon taste like warm butterscotch. Truly amazing. So from information overload and booze, we move to our what the pick of the week. When you see this photo, you may feel like you already had too much to drink, or like Alice falling down the rabbit hole. But this bedroom really seems to have used doors as a means to panel every single space on their wall. In addition, they use some weird pieced together molding to cover the seams. And if you don't think that they're actually doors, you can go check out Home Depot, where they sell the same damn door for all your paneling dreams to become a reality. This would feel a little like being stuck in the Matrix, trying to figure out which door is the right one before you piss on yourself at 3:08 in the morning. And no, this is not an example based on my personal experience. Well, I'll tell you what, thanks for joining us. This is all for Last Week in Real Estate, and make sure to subscribe down below, and we'll see you next Friday. Take care.